Afternoon, everyone. It's Jim here at Tutor2, and a warm welcome to the first in a new series of our live streams. Each year, we start the academic year off with a series of what we call revision blasts, a chance to recap, to revise parts of, in this case, the AQA A-level specification, and we've got these coming up on Tuesdays at 4:30, and then beyond half term as well. And then once we get beyond Christmas, we start getting into more exam skills session, but lots of opportunities for live revision. Normally I'd have a colleague, for example, my sidekick Graham, with me for this session, but he's currently sat in traffic in the northeast somewhere. So what the heck? We'll have a go on my own, see how we get on. So welcome if you're joining live. Please use the live chat to have a go at the activities. I've got 7 or 8 short activities to have a go at, all based on Unit 3.1, so the first part of the AQA specification, and a variety of activities, including 2 or 3 calculations, so you might want to grab your smartphone or calculator if you want to have a go at those. We'll start with a short warm-up activity whilst people are joining us. By the way, don't forget this recording, or this live session, is recorded, so you'll be able to watch it and do it on replay if you wish to. Anyway, let's have a look. Hopefully this button works. Hopefully that's working now. Is the sound working now? We're back with sound. Good, good. So we're just looking at some clues for the big reveal. Can you have a go in the live chat to see whether or not you get the answer? We've had 3 clues so far. Let's go for the 4th clue. Thanks, Ebony. Thanks for letting me know. Appreciate that. It's the first live stream of the new series, so we always start with a few technical issues. Clue number 4. One of these products of this business, it's a business, by the way, involves people watching a television. Perhaps one of its most popular products. Clue number 5. Just realised, of course, everything I said at the start of this session you've completely missed, unless you were able to lip read. But anyway, clue number 5. It's a British free-to-air public broadcast television network. What do we think? Anyone want to have a go in the live chat? I haven't seen the correct answer. Yes. Based on those 5 clues. What do we think? And the answer is, it is Channel 4. Channel 4, a public sector organisation, as it turns out, actually owned by the government. Currently, anyway, there's potential for Channel 4 to be nationalised. So that's why it comes in under Unit 3.1, a good example of a public sector organisation. We'll do a little activity at the end of this session that helps us test some more application of private and public sector organisations. Anyway, now that we are all here, or most of us, let's crack on. Let's just do 2 or 3 paper 1 style multiple choice questions. So here's our first one. And again, just use the live chat to type in either A, B, C, or D in the live chat. You don't get any marks lost or win. It's just a bit of fun. But to have a go, which one of these changes is most likely to lead to higher costs and higher demand for a product? What do we think? Is it a decrease in the rate of inflation? Is it introducing fair trade principles? Do you think it's C, a rise in interest rates? Or is it D, less competition? There is gone for B. That's the first answer in the live chat for this activity. Anyone else want to have a go? I'll give you another 15 seconds or so. Don't forget, in paper 1, 15 MCQs, and ideally you get them done in between 10 and 15 minutes. Well, Brecken and Ebony are both agreeing with Zoe, saying B, and indeed it is B. Yeah, introducing fair trade principles. Well, higher costs. Typically, fair trade involves paying more to your suppliers, for example, fair trade cocoa, but also higher demand. In theory, the idea is that if your product is fair trade sourced, it ought to also increase demand for that product, in principle. Okay, here's the next one. It's fine to guess, by the way. Now, as we do these sessions, we'll do lots of these 2-statement MCQs. You might have seen a few of these, maybe done an odd mock or paper 1 practice. So each statement says something, and you just need to decide whether each is either true or false. So the answers A, B, C, and D are always the same, but the statements aren't. So statement 1, a mission statement, sets out the main objectives of a business. Statement 2, public sector organisations do not set business objectives. What do we think? Work out whether statement 1 is true or false. Statement 2 is true or false, and then pick the answer based on your selection. Lots of answers coming flying in. Quite a few people going for B, a few Ds. Give you a few more seconds. Suddenly realised by pressing that button, I appear on the screen, which may or may not add to the experience. Let's have a look at the answer. It is indeed, it's D, isn't it? Yeah, a mission statement. That's false. A mission statement sets out the sort of the values, the reasons for existence, the values, the aims of the business. Objectives would typically be set out in a business plan. But public sector organisations do set business objectives. They are organisations, businesses in their own right, and they do set objectives for the business. So well done if you said D. And I noticed we've got quite a few people in the live chat saying we've only just started A-level, so it's really good, firstly, that you're here at this session. Maybe you've just been taught 3.1 or just getting through the first part of the spec, and you're off to a flyer by getting these right. So it's great practice, maybe for next summer after next. Okay, here's our next MCQ. A business changes its form of ownership from a sole trader to a private limited company. A consequence of this change for the business owners is what? That they will now have either A, unlimited liability. Is it B, shares they can now sell on a stock market? Is it C, limited liability? And D, shares that they can buy on a stock market? What do we think? What do we think? So changing ownership from a sole trader to a private limited company, that's the change. What is the consequence for the owners? A few more seconds. Most people, Brecken and Ebony, Foxfly and others are going for C. Let's see whether you're correct. And well done, it is C, isn't it? Yeah. Well, B and D aren't really relevant because it's selling shares or buying shares on the stock market. We're told this is a private limited company. So that's not going to apply in this case. That would be a public limited company. And yeah, the key change moving from a sole trader to a private company, the key change there is that you will have limited liability. In other words, the shareholders of the company are only liable for the amounts that they put in. Whereas, of course, a sole trader has unlimited liability. Your personal assets can be used to settle the debts of your business. So well done if you said C. Good stuff. Right. In this session, we're just going to do 2 or 3 short calculations, give you plenty of time to have a go. And there are some calculations in 3.1, not many, but they tend to revolve around either calculating profits or share prices and market capitalization. So that's what we'll do. Here's our first one. The table there shows some information about a business last year. We've got some fixed costs, variable costs and profit. All I want you to do in the time allowed, and I think the clock will give us a minute, is to calculate the sales revenue of the business last year. Have a go. And it's even better to see some people showing me their workings in the live chat as well. So you're working very quickly, very accurately. And it's very encouraging to see people having a go. In the 2022 exams, in particular in paper 1, I think it was, there were 3 calculation questions, short calculation questions, and the majority of students didn't attempt them, which is quite hard to get marks if you don't attempt them. But having a go, showing your workings, a good way of at least picking some marks up. There we go. The clock has reached the top. That's a minute. Let's see how you got on. Looking at the live chat, very encouragingly, we've got lots of correct answers. The answer is indeed 51 million. So well done, Ella, in particular, Ebony there, Foxfly, Brecken were first in the live chat. Lots of people coming in now with their answers. It's 51. So don't forget the formula. We know that profit is sales revenue less variable costs, less fixed costs. Sometimes you have to reorganize the formula. In this case, we weren't told. The missing number in this case was sales revenue. So we just substitute the numbers and work it out. And hopefully you got 51 million. 51 million. Graham is in the building. Graham in the live chat. I see you've made it through the live traffic. Well, the traffic jams. Do you want me to add you to the session, Graham, or are you happy just happy working in live chat? Just let me know in live chat what you'd like me to do, and I will adjust the system here. Let's have a look whilst Graham responds to me in live chat at our second calculation for this bit, and this one is on market capitalization. So at the end of 2021, the market capitalization of a business was 60 million. Okay. In 2022, the share price has fallen by 15%. No new shares have been issued. So please, can you calculate the current market capitalization of the business? Have a go. Got another minute for this one. Graham is going to help me out in the live chat. We'll see Graham next week in our AQA session. We'll get a police escort to get him through the traffic to the studio. So market capitalization, we're given some information at the end of last year and we're told what's happened to it or what's happened to the share price this year. Can we apply that percentage change, really. It's percentage change, isn't it, to the data given. We've got about 15 seconds left. Again, excellent to see lots of people working quickly and accurately in the live chat window. And as the minute clock ticks down to the final few seconds, let's take a look to see whether you were right. Well done. Lots of people correct. 51 million. Different ways of doing it. The simple way is perhaps just the approach number 2 there. 15% reduction. So we simply multiply 60 million by 0.85. However, another way, an alternative way, is to work out the percentage, apply the percentage change, 15% fall, which was 9 million, and then take 9 million from 60. Both are valid. Don't forget, in all your calculations in the exams, always show your workings. And as Graham's mentioned in live chat, percentage changes, they appear every year, guarantee, and often students get them wrong because they, well, they haven't practiced them, or they maybe don't show the workings. So always show your workings. Good stuff. Right, well, we're just going to move on to a different activity now. We're going to come back and do one more calculation. This one's called the example spinner. As Graham and I and others will explain over the coming sessions, application is everything in AQA. It's the sort of the seasoned context that helps raise the level of your answers. So we've got a little activity here, which is going to draw on 3.1, specifically factors that influence costs and demand. So now this is as much fun as for me as it is for you. We're going to spin the spinner, and it's going to pick one of those 6 factors. The AQA exam specification has 7 factors which influence demand and costs. It's going to pick one of those, and all I want you to do in the live chat is to give me an example of how costs might be influenced, the business costs might be influenced by one of them. If you get the idea. Should we spin? Let's spin it and just give you, we'll do 2 of these. This will give you a good flavor for the activity. Here we go. So round and round it goes. Where it ends, no one knows. It's as much fun for us as it is for you. Totally random. So over to you, please. Can you give me an example of how costs of a business might be influenced by interest rates? I was going to say exchange rates, interest rates. Type them into the live chat. Can you give me an example application of how the costs of a business might be influenced by interest rates, and be as specific as you can be, maybe explaining how and why a particular cost might be influenced by a change in interest rates. I'll give you another 30 seconds or so to have a think about this, and if you get a chance to type it into the live chat, that's great. In fact, I'm going to help out here by picking, just maybe picking 1 or 2 of the entries coming into the live chat and let's see if I can click a couple of buttons, add them to the live stream here. There we go. It's worked. Fantastic response in from Brecken. So don't be shy. Have a go. Interest rates can increase the amount of interest that the business has to pay, the interest cost on their loans, which is an increase in the fixed costs for the firm. Superb stuff. Superb stuff. Let's have a look at what we put. The cost of financing a business loan will increase if interest rates rise. Superb. Right, you get the idea. Let's do another one. Let's move on from costs this time. Let's move on to an example of how demand might be influenced by a change in one of those 6. We're going to spin the wheel again. It could be interest rates again. It might be something different. Let's have a look. Round it goes. Completely random. Okay. Demographic factors. So over to you again. And I'll try to pick out 1 or 2 of your suggestions of examples of how demand might be influenced by demographic factors. Hopefully you know or can recall, or if you've just been taught it, last week's lesson, you can remember what demographic factors are. But can you link that with, or give me an example of how demand might be affected? Cassie, this is a superb response. One of the entries in the live chat. Let's stick it on the screen. Cassie has suggested an aging population will demand more wheelchairs. So the demographic factor, in this case, you've gone for age, demographics, an increase in the proportion of the population, or an increase in the number of old people, in theory, yes, will indeed lead to demand for wheelchairs or other mobility items. Fantastic example. And as Graham has suggested, stair lifts as well. Ella's gone for a slightly different but similar approach. More demand for care homes or hospitals as the population ages. So again, I mean, that's a cracking example. As the population gets older, we should see, shouldn't we, more demand as people live longer as well, of course, importantly. Should see more demand for services, whether it be care homes, hospitals, or products like wheelchairs and stair lifts that are there to support that segment, the demographic segment of older people. It's fantastic stuff. Great stuff. Lots of great examples coming into the live chat. So thank you for those. What did I go with? I didn't go for old people and stair lifts, which frankly drive me up the wall. I went for younger people. I thought, what about a decrease in the number of younger people working in cities? We're seeing it, aren't we? After the pandemic, lots of younger people, when they start work or working previously in offices, are now working from home. That might therefore reduce demand for food on the go. And certainly if you look at the likes of Greggs and Pret, it's been a big issue for them over the last year or so. Superb stuff. The example spinner, hope you like that activity. It's a great activity to practice application. Good stuff. Right, back over to you now. You're on fire. So again, I'm gonna draw some of your ideas into the live stream from the live chat window. A quick activity, only 30 seconds for these, just to give me two of something. So give me two is the activity, and our first task is to give me two reasons why the share price of a public limited company might fall. What do you think? Over to you. Let's start the clock. Maybe a bit of funky music in the background. I can't hear the funky music, but perhaps someone in live chat can tell me whether or not the music's playing. I think it is. So give me two reasons, or give me one reason, or give me three why the share price of a public limited company might fall. Type them into the live chat. Have a go. I'm going to look out for not necessarily the first, but for some examples that you've got. There we go. Our time is up. Well, let's see what we've got here. Ebony's gone for if lots of people, or shareholders, if we were more precise, shareholders selling their shares. Absolutely. If shareholders start selling, that would increase the supply of shares, decrease, and no change in demand. Therefore, the share price will fall. Foxfly, great response. Bad financial performance. That's a great reason. That could be lower profits or cash flow problems potentially. Also, higher supply of shares, more people making their shares available. Superb stuff. Good stuff. Let's have a look, see what we went with here. So the specification asks you to consider reasons why the share price of a business might fall. Well, clearly it'd be a public limited company. And we've picked up a couple of ones. One is a profits warning, which is where the public limited company will tell the market that profits are going to be lower than expected. In other words, a deterioration of the financial performance of the business is anticipated. That usually leads to quite a significant fall in the share price. And similarly, what if the market itself is falling? What if a sector becomes less popular? For example, in the last week or two, the share prices of house builders have all fallen as a consequence of higher interest rates and as a consequence of disruption to the mortgage market, reducing demand for mortgages. Therefore, their share prices have all fallen together. Thanks for your answers, though. I love those. Let's do another Give Me Two. This way, this time we're looking at costs. So a bit more application this time, though. So I'm looking for some specific application, please. Two ways in which a supermarket group can reduce its fixed costs. Over to you. So we're going to get into a little bit more specific context here. We're looking at a supermarket group with the likes of, I don't know, Tesco, Waitrose, Asda. How could a supermarket group reduce its fixed costs? That time flies by, doesn't it? When you're having fun, 30 seconds. Foxfly was first in, making staff redundant. Absolutely, and that's a good example. That Foxfly of it's a correct response. But I'll show you a little way in which you can make that even more applied to this context which we gave you, which is supermarket groups. Similarly, Cassie's response here is another good one. Rent a cheaper building, lower advertising expenditure by using social media. That's true. That will reduce fixed costs. But again, I'll just show you show you an example of how we could make that even more applied to a supermarket group with a technique called such as seasoning. But great answers. Thanks for those. Let's have a look to see what we went with. And we went with negotiate lower store rents, which I suppose is similar to Cassie's idea of renting a cheaper building. Yeah, so you could rent a cheaper building, or you could negotiate with the landlord if you don't own the building, the supermarket. So a store, the use of the word store there is application, isn't it? Because we're talking about supermarket groups. Similarly, picking up Foxfly's suggestion, making stuff redundant. Well, you could reduce the number of managers in each store, or by making them redundant. But by using the word store managers, that makes this applied to the context of the supermarket group. This is good stuff. One more of these. These are all examples drawn from 3.1. And here we are now moving to my favorite food, your favorite food, pizza. So give me 2 reasons why the variable costs of a pizza producer might increase, and try to include a bit of relevant application based around pizza producers. Over to you. Have a go. So we got the idea with the previous supermarket group. We were ideally using examples that are specific to supermarkets, so the examiner can see we were replying in context. Here we have switched from fixed cost to variable costs, but our context has changed from supermarkets to pizza manufacturer. Aha, we've got the idea here. Superb stuff. This is brilliant. This is brilliant. Time is up. Cassie, well done. You've got the idea, and numerous other people in the live chat. A rise in the costs of ingredients, for example, flour. Absolutely. Flour is an ingredient, a variable cost and input into the pizza production process, but the use of the word ingredients, e.g. flour, roots that response in the context, and the examiner will be absolutely delighted. What do we go with? I'm just going to remove that comment just briefly from the screen there. We went for, wow, there we go. Similar to Cassie, a higher cost of ingredients, such as toppings and dough. So it's a thing called such as seasoning. If you just use the word such as and give the examiner 1 or 2 examples to help make a generic answer into something which is applied, it significantly increases the application, the skill of application in the responses. And we've also gone for increased energy prices, such as gas for the pizza ovens. Could be an electric oven, of course, as well, couldn't it? But you get the idea. Those are both reasons why variable costs would increase. Superb stuff. Well done. Hopefully you found that activity useful. We've got one more activity, which is a nice categorise activity. But before we finish, always time for one more calculation. So this time we're going to use index numbers, one of the quantitative skills that students often struggle with. If you've not done them before, don't worry. Have a go. If you have a go. If you remember this from GCSE maths, definitely have a go. The table there shows an index number for the total costs of the business. Last year, the total costs were 10.6 million. What are the total costs this year? Using the information in the table and the text, have a go. So we've got a minute for this one with all of our calculation countdowns. We do a minute. Now don't forget, in the exam, a calculation, typically 2 or 3 marks, 2 or 3 minutes. Lots of time to double check your workings, to check the information given. It's amazing how much you can get done in a minute, as you're proving in the live chat. Now, I didn't tell you on the screen there how many decimal places. Typically, normally, you'd normally go for 2 decimal places, unless you were told otherwise, but don't worry about it if you haven't in the live chat. And our time is up. There we go. There's our minute. And I can see now that a lot of you are very comfortable with the idea of index numbers. The answer is indeed 11.66 million. Well, let's just take a look at how we got to that. Don't forget, with index numbers, it helps you work out percentage changes. And index numbers are all about the base, aren't they? So our base is 100 last year. If the index number goes up, in this case, it's gone up by 10 to 110. That is an increase, a percentage increase. If the index number falls, that will be a percentage decrease. And we simply apply the change in the index number to the relevant data. In this case, 10.6 million of costs last year. They've gone up by 10%, haven't they? The index number has increased by 10. Change over prior year number, 10 over 100, 10%. Therefore, costs have gone up. Total costs have gone up to 11.66 million. Superb. Well done for having a go. Brecon, Foxlike, Ebony, the first 3 correct answers I saw there in the live chat, but well done to everybody else for having a go. We have one more activity left. One more. And it's a quick categorise activity. So we mentioned in 3.1, one of the areas that you need to consider is the difference between private sector and public sector organisations. And it's really useful to have some examples of those in your notes, and even better, if you end up writing an answer on one of these topics in your exam, to have them in your head. You can bring them to impress the examiner. On the screen there, I've listed 8 businesses. They are all businesses or organisations, and all you have to do in 60 seconds is decide whether each is either private sector or public sector. I won't say anything else other than to say London North East Railway is LNER. It's the railway that takes you from London to Aberdeen or Edinburgh and in between. And the NHS, obviously, is the National Health Service. So have a go. Let's run the clock for a minute and see if you can categorise them. Maybe just put private, 2, 3, 4, whatever the numbers are, just in the live chat. Have a go. So each of those listed in 8 definitely goes in one and only one of the categories. Private sector, don't forget, privately owned, not owned by the government or government organisations. Public sector organisations are effectively owned or controlled by the public, the government departments. And it's not necessarily an equal number in each category, as we will see in a second. Most people in the live chat are going for an equal split. It isn't quite an equal split. Brecca, don't worry about getting it the wrong way around. I know what you mean, so I'll just swap what you said and say public for private. Well done for having a go. Give you a few more seconds. Shall we have a look? Let's have a look at how these split out. You might be surprised by maybe a couple of these, but as I say, these are great examples to have in your notes. And as Graham's mentioned in the live chat, this difference between private and public sector organisations was examined a couple of years ago, and it caught a lot of students out. So it really is worth having some examples. Let's have a look. The magic of PowerPoint splits them into private and public sector. So what have we got in private sector? Well, we have 5 of them. Netflix, a public company based in the US. Domino's Pizza, which is actually a public company in the US and in the UK, but a privately owned company. Royal Mail used to be public sector, but no longer. It's now a private business, public limited company. It was privatized quite a few years ago, 10 or 15 years ago, I think. National Car Parks, well, maybe there was a clue in the name, or not in a clue in the name. It's National Car Parks, but it's actually a private company. They operate a lot of car parks in the UK, and obviously Aldi, which is a German-based business, private business, which leaves 4 which are currently in the public sector. That doesn't mean that they don't try to operate to make a profit in some cases. However, they are publicly owned. So the LNER Railway has been privately owned recently, but is now back in public ownership. It's a great example to use. The NHS, obviously, one of the biggest public sector, in fact, the biggest public sector employer, I think it is in the UK. And obviously the NHS has lots of businesses working for it or in it that are privately owned, but the organisation itself is public sector. And so too is the good old BBC, the British Broadcasting Corporation, paid for by licenses, TV licenses. And obviously the BBC also has commercial operations within it, but the organisation itself is public sector. Good stuff. I think most people got those right. Maybe Royal Mail was the example which perhaps some people thought was public sector. But as I say, it's a great example to have for your notes and to bring in where relevant to a question. I think we are done. We're bang on time. That's 33, 34 minutes. And if we exclude all the appalling technical gremlins at the start of the session, then I'd say it's exactly 30 minutes. So a huge thanks to everyone who's joined me live, and to Graham, of course, in the live chat for helping us out. If you're watching on replay, hopefully you found it useful too. Please do, if you find it useful, give it a thumbs up. And if you want to be given an alert for all the upcoming AQA A-Level Business live streams and other live stuff that we do on YouTube, subscribe to the YouTube channel and click the bell icon so you get a notification when new videos are being added. We're working our way through lots of worked answers, for example, at the minute, to past exam questions. So it might be worth taking a look at some of those. Anyway, really enjoyed this session, and we're looking forward to next week. Next week, you won't be surprised to hear, is on 3.2, which is all about management and leadership. So we'll be diving into a couple of models and some other stuff, and hopefully be able to join us for that. Spread the word if any of your classmates want to join us live next week. But for now, see you later.